Abortion. It's today's hottest topic. Yet between the right-wing conservatives and the left-wing liberals, few people are capable of presenting an argument grounded in logic and rationality, devoid of anecdotes and emotion. The moment someone inserts the phrase, "I believe," the argument becomes flawed. So few of these debates are presented purely from objective standpoints, using facts or even grounded beliefs. So here's my attempt today to be the voice of the pro. Through careful analysis of both sides of the pro-choice and pro-life argument, the only logical conclusion one can arrive in the United States is one of pro-choice. First, we have to set some common ground. In the United States, we have a constitution. Until further amendments are made to it, we can hold these postulates to be true. First, all people must be treated equally under the law. Second, religion shall play no part in decision-making. Third, people have a right for the pursuit of happiness. Now with that foundation set, let's argue some semantics. Written statements are king when it comes to rights in America. No paper, no proof. Case in point, in 8 states, Georgia, Indiana, Kansas, Mississippi, North Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, and Wisconsin, you strictly have to have a photo ID in order to vote. No papers, no ID, no vote. So how does this relate to abortion? Well, unborn children are not recognized for tax and social benefits. In the United States, there is a jus soli policy, or the right of the soil, which means any person born in the United States is granted citizenship. If an unborn child is to have the same rights as a mother, it should at the very least have the same rights as a child just being born, right? Well, clearly no, because the prefix "un" means not, and they clearly don't have the same standing socially. In any state, there's a guideline for child support, but for the purposes of this discussion, let's look at Alabama, the first state to outlaw abortion. It doesn't require child support for unborn children. Child support only starts when the person is being born. Hypothetically, on a grander scheme, imagine if the jus soli policy was extended to the conception of a child instead of the birth. The implications would be huge. Anyone anywhere would be able to claim that they were an American citizen if their parents had ever traveled or visited the United States within 9 to 10 months of their date of birth, and claim that during that visit they were conceived. There is a common adage that there are only 2 things ever certain in life: death and taxes. The IRS is a great determinant of whether something is real or not. In fact, Scientology is only recognized as a religion in part due to the IRS, but more on that in a different video. In order to be claimed as a dependent or child for tax purposes by the IRS, you have to have been born and have a valid tax ID, neither of which are possible for an unborn child. Therefore, the IRS does not recognize an unborn child as having the same rights as a born child. If an unborn child does not have the same rights as a born child, then it must not be a person. As much as right-wing conservatives love to use the word child added to the end of unborn, instead of a less anthropomorphic term like fetus or embryo or bundle of cells, the personification itself does not equate to that of a born child. Either it's a person or it's not a person. It can't be somewhere in the middle. Again, to reiterate the 14th Amendment, all person born should have equal rights under the law. If that text ever gets changed to conceived, we can revisit the argument. But currently there are no classifications for secondary citizens who are in the process of being born. You are either born or unborn. In short, no papers, no rights. With regards to abortion, it's always truly just been a battle of rights. The rights of the mother versus the rights of the baby. But let's define this in a more logical fashion by using the most objective element in human comprehension, which is math. In math, there's a term called a set. A set is simply a collection of objects, which in this case will be rights. For the purpose of this argument, we are not arguing about fetuses that have reached even the slightest chance of viability at 21 weeks. That's the Guinness World Record for the youngest preterm infant, which is 21 weeks of gestation. But abortions at greater than 21 weeks of gestation only account for 1.3% of all total abortions. So for this purpose, just for simplicity's sake, we're not going to include that small population. Now continue on with this. Within the set of the mother, there are multiple objects or rights. For simplicity, we'll name only a few, such as the right to walk in public, to have a passport, to have a tax ID, to live, as granted by the government of the United States. It's only ever been argued that the embryo has one of these rights, which is the right to life. In math, there is another term called a subset. In mathematics, a set A is a subset of set B if A is contained inside B. That is, all elements of A are also in elements of B. To give a visual, let's define B as a set of polygons, and A to be a set of regular polygons. In this diagram, you can see that A is a subset of B. It also means that B is greater than A. This is true in the case of mother and embryo. The only right that the embryo has is the right to life. Additionally, this right is only valid when the embryo is inside the mother's womb. Outside the womb, the embryo exists only as a subset of the mother. This would also mean that the rights of the mother is greater than the rights of the embryo. In a greater sense, it also means that the right of the mother dictates the right of the embryo, since again, the embryo can't exist as an independent set outside of the mother. For the most part, this is widely accepted. Wherever the mother is going, the embryo is going as well. If the mother's rights are imposed upon, then the embryo's rights are imposed upon as well. For example, if a mother gets imprisoned, the embryo gets imprisoned as well, to a greater extreme. If the mother is killed, the embryo is also non-viable, or ergo dead, as well. Because the embryo can only ever exist as a subset of the mother, it's not independent of the mother, and its choices are clearly dependent on the choices of the mother. In other words, the mother makes the choice for the embryo.